Well, hey, you, and welcome back to another episode of the Western Hippie podcast. I'm your host, Michaela, and I'm here with Willie the Corgi and Squirt the Golden Retriever puppy. And before I dive in, it is currently 11:11 as I'm recording this, so make a wish. Even if it's not 11:11 your time, make a wish. I'm going to be making mine as well, so I just wanted to give a little shout out because that's always just been something fun for me, and one of the things I'm trying to incorporate in my life again is more magic, a little bit more fun. And so, just putting that out there. Squirt, back to Squirt, is a golden retriever puppy that my family and I are rehabbing right now. He has puppy strangles, or also known as, of course, juvenile cellulitis. I was going to say, please don't blank on this right now, Michaela. And we're just, he didn't respond well to steroids. So we're just trying some remedies on him. I will update you as soon as we're I think we're over the hump, but I definitely want to get him a little more healthy, and I'll share like before and after pictures, the process, what we used, why we used it, all of the things. I'm actually working on a new series right now that you will be seeing this week, so stay tuned. And this series is going to go on the podcast as well. It is going to be more visual focused and going to be on YouTube. So I'm creating presentations, slides, these mini master classes. I'm not really sure what I'm going to call them yet, actually, for YouTube. Like I said, I'll extract the audio, put it here. But the first one is natural healing remedies for arthritis for dogs specifically. I think I'm calling it Natural Remedies for Dog Arthritis, I think is the title of the first one. So that will be out later this week. So keep an eye open on that. I really wanted to have more visuals on these ones because I do want to do more of a teaching style, because one of the things that I do differently than most people in holistic healing is my mindset approach is very specific, and there's certain lenses that I view health that not everyone views health, and the lens that we view the problem through will determine the answers that we get, because how we look at a situation determines the questions we ask, and the questions that we ask determine that the answers that we get. And so I wanted to make it more of a class style deep dive. And so that will be coming later this week. I'm really excited. The slides started coming together this week. And as I was putting together, it just, when one of those things, it just feels right. You can't really explain it, but this just feels right. And this just feels so right to me. So super excited to get that out to you. I am testing a new recording location. So far in my headphones, we sound pretty good. We're going to test a few different spots, see how it goes. I am also testing a new recording chair. Comfortability wise, great. The way I'm sitting, great. If I move a little too harshly sound on said chair, not so great. And I didn't really realize it until I was already committed. So I'm going to do my best to sit as still as I can. But, you know, if it doesn't work out, we'll try another spot on the next recording day. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode, which is the grief that we don't talk about enough. And I actually wanted to start with a quote. And the quote is by, and please excuse me if I'm butchering this name, I'm your basic white chick when it comes to name pronunciations, meaning it's not basic English. Even if it is basic English, I'm probably going to butcher it. So I believe it's Anatole France. And the quote is, all changes, even the most longed for, have their melancholy. For what we leave behind us is a part of ourselves. We must die to one life before we can enter another. And I wanted to share this quote with you today and talk about grief today because I am going through it. And I don't know about you, but I was so afraid, and I still am in so many ways afraid to feel grief because I correlated grief with death only. And that could not be further from the truth, because one of my favorite quotes about grief is from Dr. John Deloney, if you know, apart from the quote that I just shared with you. This is, I guess, actually, now that I'm saying this out loud, Dr. John Deloney's is more of an explanation of grief and less than a quote. And his explanation of grief is Grief just means things didn't go the way you planned. So it could be grieving a job that didn't go the way you planned. It could be grieving a relationship that didn't go the way that you planned. And it doesn't just have to be death. But I think because we only for the most part, not only, but we really only correlate grief with major, what we would call like capital T traumas, death, divorce, major breakups, I would say, get clumped into this. And all this other stuff gets kind of lumped in, and it sucks, suck it up, move on. But it is grief. And the other grief that we don't talk about, which is what the quote by Anatole France so beautifully sums up, is good grief. And I don't mean, the other like good grief. But the grief that comes with the changes that we are longing for. And that is what I am in the middle of right now is I'm shedding this old identity. And to shed this identity, I have to leave a part of myself behind. And there's a lot of like emotional stuff that I'm working through that I'm having to leave behind. And it is hard. And one of the most specific reasons I did want to record this today, other than just the fact that I'm going through it, is I've been testing out a new modality that I'm thinking about getting trained in called spinal energetics. So I've had 2 sessions. And like I said, I think I'm going to have 4 to 5 sessions before I decide if it's something that I want to invest and actually go get certified in. But basically, and I may have talked about this on a previous episode, what I've been doing the last few years is getting trained in different modalities. And my whole purpose of holistic healing is to be able to look at the whole picture. And part of that is Willie's just moving. So if you hear a little noise in the background, yep, there we go. Um, Part of that holistic healing is having a tool for every different part of when I think of holistic healing, it just dawned on me. You can't see the visuals in my head, so I should probably explain them. When I think about holistic healing, I think of almost like a Venn diagram, but those Venn diagrams that have like 5 circles and not just one. So we have the mind, we have the body, we have the spiritual body, we have the emotional body, we have the energetic body. And so you, me, the universal us is the center of that Venn diagram because we are all of these things. The thing is, sometimes just the body can be out of whack. And so we can put that in there or we can balance that. Sometimes just the emotional body can be out of whack and we can just balance there. And I've been trying to find different modalities for each one of these things. I've been most recently working on the mind, reprogramming the mind. I've been doing emotional work the last couple of years. I know the body really well when it comes to physical health. So if you need a remedy or a modality to heal an ailment, I got you. Sometimes I know more than someone will ask me a question and I it's kind of weird because I have been studying the physical modalities like biohacking, holistic healing remedies for since I was 17 years old and I'm 29, almost 30 now. And so sometimes someone will ask me a question and I'm shocked at what comes out of my mouth. So I know that part really well. What I'm working on now is nervous system healing and regulation. And I'm actually starting to think that that needs a category of its own because that is really the bridge because we have all of these energetic bodies, but then there's bridges between all of them. And the nervous system for me is really this bridge between the physical body, the mental body, and the emotional body. It's kind of this webbing that encompasses it all as I continue to learn about it. And even for me, that was one of the things I realized I can learn and practice some of this emotional stuff all day long, but until I have a calm nervous system and can really integrate it, it doesn't matter. And so that's what I've been really learning and working on is nervous system regulation. And anyway, haven't fully solidified my thoughts on that yet in explanation. That's just kind of where I'm at with it right now. And in one of these spinal energetic sessions, she said something, the girl that I've been working with said something so simply and so freaking profoundly is that if you're overthinking, then you're under feeling. because we go through something and as a protective mechanism, we start trying to just overanalyze it. And so today, as I am heard something, and it's one of those things like I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. And it still doesn't make it easier when you hear it or when you find out. And it was just about somebody that I honestly, I guess we're friends here. I honestly thought I was going to marry one day. And 4 or 5 years ago, it became evident that, okay, our time is done and I have to start grieving that. And he has since moved on, gotten into a relationship, got engaged. And so obviously I knew the marriage was coming because I knew they were engaged, but I actually found out they got married today. And I knew that was coming. And it's interesting because even with this grief, you can think you've grieved something and then another layer of it comes in. And so today that was what was revealed to me. And that was another layer of this grief. And I found it out several hours ago. I actually didn't even want to record a podcast today. And it was kind of this balance of do my commitment is to do one podcast a week versus do I need to take this time and actually just go let myself do this grieving? And the answer was both. And so here we are. So thank you for being here with me today. And so, but I find this out several hours ago, and my brain is just going cuckoo bananas. And that quote that the girl I've been working with the spinal energetics popped into my head was, if you're overthinking, you are underfeeling. And so I paused, and she's right. And so I kind of, when I need to drop into my body, I visualize, I first ask myself, where is my energy? Where is my consciousness? And if I see this big ball of white light in my head, which is for me, that's pretty standard, I visualize myself dropping back into my body. And so I visualize that white light just coming back down. And for me, when I'm really present within my body, I really feel it around my belly button area. So I drop back into my body and I'm like, okay, how am I feeling? And I'm pretty fucking shitty. And it's just the damnedest thing. And I still just don't fully understand it. And again, apparently Squirt agrees. And I still just don't fully understand it. But I think that was why I wanted to share the quote about by even the changes most longed for have their melancholy, because that's really, I don't think there is any understanding it, but the part of it that I do understand is I am closing a chapter. In so many freaking ways, I'm closing a chapter. And so many of these changes I've longed for, I've prayed for, I've wished for, I've journaled for, and I can feel them coming. And yet there's a part of me that's holding on to this last chapter book of my life because of this grief. And because again, it's just this letting go. And specifically it is him. And I still don't understand what part of me is holding on. And once I do, I will figure it out, because that is one of my intentions and goals, is to figure out why we hold on to certain things and why this grief comes in certain areas. And then how do we actually grieve a relationship and not get over it, but move forward in a holistic way, because so many people will get out of a relationship. And even right after him and I broke up, I remember we broke up and then I went to college. And I remember watching this guy in school and was like, man, I remember finding him attractive and even getting the feels for him. And it dawned on me one day, the guy that I had broke up with and then this guy in college, they walked the same way. They had the same cadence. And I I can pick up on body language really easily because of working with horses my whole life. but here's the thing, the subconscious mind picks up on things like that all the time. We're just not always consciously aware of it. I am because of my background with horses. And so that dawned, I'm like, oh, I'm not actually interested in him. I'm actually just trying to get over the other one. Not saying that, sometimes we do have to move forward with things like with some, you know, do we ever get over somebody? I don't know. I'm been searching for the answer for these questions for a long time. And again, I will share them with you the second that I have them. But um I don't want to be the person that's just searching for someone to get over somebody else. And so I really want to figure out, how do we actually move through breakups and, you know, not even just breakups, but genuinely, I think we've all had, like, I am gonna marry this person, and I had that with this person the night I met him, which was even more interesting because at that point, I was not planning on getting married, and by the end of the night, I was like, "I'm gonna marry that guy one day," and, um, yeah, it's just been a wild journey, so just even getting over with that grief, and so in transitioning to this chapter, I'm like, how do I not force myself to quote unquote let go? How do I not force myself to move on and get over it and you're better off without him, but just like shed? Like, how can I just shed this feelings, these beliefs, and not again force myself to feel anything, but just move forward? But that shedding is the grief. And this is the only thing that there's really no there's really I really don't have any answers for you today, honestly. This is just me venting to a friend, so thank you for listening to me vent. Um, because I don't have any answers. I wish I did. That's one of the things I love is like, you go through something hard and that's what makes meaning out of it is like, now I can help you. And really the only way I can help you today is just be really freaking honest about how I feel and what it's been like and the weirdness of grief and the grief that we don't talk about. And so relatability is really the only help that I can provide today. And the only other thing, and I've been sitting with this concept for a little bit, is I'm a Swiftie by no means, but there's a part of me that deeply resonates with Taylor Swift. And the part of me that deeply resonates with her is there's something about making art from madness. And I've been playing with this concept or this question of, is art the only way out? And when I say out, I mean like out of the grief, out of the darkness, out of the sadness, like any emotion that we could categorize as more heavy or dense or sad. Like, is art genuinely the only way out of it? Like, is that the best form of what some people would call transmutation or alchemy? And that just means turning the dark into light. Like, is art the only way to do that? A- And I'm not saying that for even anybody, but it's definitely a question I've been asking because that I'm aware of. I have spent over $30,000 in different personal development and healing modalities and courses and therapy and coaching sessions and other sessions. That's just what I know about. And I know there's things like here and there that I've spent money on that I don't know about. And I don't say that I say that as evidence of how much shit that I have actually done. I'm not someone that, dips her toes in the water. Like, I just jump in. And so when I started on this personal development, healing, etc., and that's the other thing about me, I don't like shitty shit. I don't like shitty shit. I want the modalities that are proven to work, and I wanna find out if they actually work. If someone says they work and they're the best of the best and they don't end up working, then I will report that as well, but I want to know. And so I say that just, again, as evidence that I've done a lot of stuff. And until I make art out of something, I can go dance and jump and sing at a Tony Robbins seminar. I can go do psychedelics. I could go do MDMA. I can go do whatever. Like, it there's something about it that it just like lingers in my field and in my body. And then I make art out of it. I write about it. The grief that I'm currently going through with the situation that I mentioned earlier, have this most like beautiful song coming through me right now. And the crazy thing is, like, I want to go listen to this song right now. Like, I'm writing it, but I'm like, I want to go listen to it because music has always been a helpful way for me to process as well. And so that's what I'm wondering, is art the only way out of this grief that we don't talk about? And even the grief that we do talk about, is art the only way out of it? And I think maybe, and maybe not for you, but for me, um, I think art, and also I'm gonna get into this in another episode. I think art and self-worth. Like, can we have a self-worth and art class? Maybe I should make that a thing. I don't know. Like, are those the only 2 ways out of the darkness? Art and self-worth. I think maybe. I'm gonna go sit with that actually after this episode. I need to meditate on that more before I draw a conclusion. Gonna have to go channel something, I think. Anyway, um, that might be all I have today. I actually do think I need to go. Crying is not an easy task for me. I have to I have to really do some stuff to get me to cry, and I do need to go cry and just try to get some of this ish moving. I'm really I really wanna go actually work on the song because I think that that'll probably bring up some tears, but I will say it's kind of interesting when you do tap into emotion, how the stuff will just come through, because that's just the only other thing that I noticed today was with the if you're overthinking or underfeeling thing, is I just don't wanna feel numb anymore, and the overthinking is definitely tied to the numbness for me. And so instead of just, because I actually, when I first heard it, I was kind of scanning my body of like, am I okay? Am I good? And it's like, yeah, of course I'm good because I've made myself too numb to not feel good. It's like we think that we feel good, but it's actually, we just don't feel a thing because we feel numb. So anyway, um, that's all I got. That is I'm good. I'm done. I think I told you at the end of the last episode, when my grandma and my dad are done talking, my grandma's since passed. They're just like, "Goodbye." That's kinda how I'm feeling today. So, I do wanna say thank you so much for being here. Like I said, I really couldn't provide much helpful information other than, just being relatable and being honest, and the last thing I wanna say is to give yourself permission to grieve, like, whatever is going on in your life. Like, if there's just that feeling at the pit of your chest that you're like, I don't know what this feeling is, it's probably grief. Especially if it feels heavy, it's probably grief. So whether it's a job, something didn't go the way you thought it was going to go, regardless of how small or big it is, just go give yourself permission to grieve, write a letter to it if need be. And I will see you this Thursday with this new era of the Western Hippie. And yeah, just thank you for being along. I kind of want to say along for the ride. So anyway, thank you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, night, or whenever you're listening to this. And I will talk to you. Willie, Squirt, and I will talk to you later this week.